Now, after the self-imposed ban on Indian films was lifted, theatre owners in Pakistan hope to profit from the release of Aamir Khan's Dangal. However, their plea for the film's release has been stalled by the Pakistan Prime Minister, who's yet to give his go-ahead. Yet another Indian film has become the victim of Pakistan's bigotry and intolerance. Isn't it time for India to voluntarily black out Pakistan? Isn't it time for India to voluntarily black out Pakistan?
As we welcome Pak stars with open arms, our neighbour showing its true colour by banning Aamir starrer Dangal screening.
बैन हट गया है लेकिन हमारी फिल्म वहाँ नहीं लग रही है.
As Sharif stalls the go-ahead for the movie, quashing the permission sought by cinema owners, the latest snub yet another reminder of Pakistan treachery.
It's a wonderful way for India to show, what Indians are all about. And especially if we have a hostile neighbor, we should actually export our films as freely as possible.
वो लोग जो है टेररिज्म भी बॉर्डर पे होती है, लेकिन वो बोलते हैं हम लोग नहीं टेररिज्म करते, हम भी इस टेररिज्म के शिकार हैं. तो उनकी जो राजनीति है, जो उनका जो आर्मी का जो तरीका है, वो टोटल झूठ के बुनियाद पे है.
But not the first time that Pakistan has banned Indian movies, but Pakistan remaining constant on its position, even in the face of massive losses being incurred.
In this age of internet and high communication, it is difficult to actually ban any movie and get that impact because it's available everywhere, and I'm sure that Pakistan also knows it.
Films are done for the sake of an art, then they should be permitted wherever. But if a film is made as a propaganda against somebody, then I think there needs to be questions that need to be asked.
They export terror, launch attacks and even ban Indian goods as they open our country for the benefit of Pakistan with yet another reminder of its duplicitous behavior. Isn't it time that we too boycott Pakistan completely? Your report, NewsX.
Well, we're joined for more on this discussion and on this particular aspect. Ira Trivedi is with us at this point of time, as well as Advaita Kala, our guests who are joining us on this panel. Ira Trivedi, if I can come to you first, your reaction to this aspect that we're seeing clearly as far as Indian cinema is concerned. Pakistan actors come here and act, but despite the ban being lifted, the fact that Dangal won't be released or shown in Pakistan, it's a clear sign of the duplicitous behavior that we see on part of the Pakistan government.
No, absolutely, and Pakistan has proven to be, the Pakistani government has been proven to be hypocritical time and again. This is not the first time. So I do think that what is happening is terrible. I also spoke against the ban in India when we banned Pakistani films and actors. Several friends of mine have been personally affected when they had films shooting with Pakistani actors and actresses. And this is, hundreds of crores worth of money. And now for the same to be happening on the other side is really terrible, because I think films are such an amazing way of soft power. It's how we can build cultural bonds. It's how we can build friendship. It really is. So I do think that banning films, books, it's really terrible and it should never be done. And I'm very, very disappointed, but I'm not surprised, because the Pakistani government has often been hypocritical. They've often really not held their word and held their promises made to India. So I'm not surprised, but I think what has happened is really terrible.
Right, Advaita Kala, your views on this? Clearly it seems that the Pakistan government and its views are completely duplicitous and not in sync with the times.
I think I echo that as well. However, I do feel, again, in the same vein that films are a sense of soft power. They do exude that. I think it's very important that when we are going through such kind of incursions on our border and cross-border terrorism, I think there was a necessity to pull back a little bit on interaction as much as that's not the norm, but we have to, as civil society, even step up to the plate and support and express our displeasure in the kind of violation of our territorial integrity that takes place on a routine basis. You know, so with Pakistan doing this, it's unsurprising. I think, you know, they're really shooting themselves in their own foot, because they've already lost something like 150 million with this ban that they imposed as a reactionary measure. I am not one for tit for tat with Pakistan. I think we have to set the agenda, and the agenda quite clearly is that if there has to be normalization between our countries in all aspects, then there has to be a stop to cross-border terrorism, and enough is enough.
Right. Sultan Ali is also with us, analyst who joins us live at this point in time. Sultan Ali, the arguments are very clear. You shot yourself in the foot. On one hand, you're not going to get the kind of business which you normally would have. And what can possibly be the objection to a film like Dangal, which is clearly a film that is focused on the world of sports, far from politics or security-related issues, which perhaps, you know, at some level the government may have issues with. With this kind of treatment to a regular entertainment film, clearly what is the Pakistan government trying to prove? Sultan Ali, can you hear me, sir? I'm afraid we have difficulty connecting with Sultan Ali, unfortunately. Let me go back to you. Ira Trivedi, what do you think the government's role in this particular matter should be? Of course, should we adopt domestically a harder stance as far as not just Pakistani entertainment serials or films are concerned, but already the stance that we've taken vis-a-vis the artists of Pakistan who perform in India are concerned?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, I disagree. I think culture is beyond boundaries. I really think so. So by banning individual artists to come, by banning films, we're really promoting a long culture of hate, which is not good at all, because let's remember one thing: while border incursions are limited to, you know, a few government officials, films and, you know, culture affects the masses, affects millions and millions of people in India and Pakistan whose sentiments towards the other country are probably, they're positive, you know, and in the long run, both countries want the same thing. We both want to build positive relationships. Yes, there's conflicts at the moment. Yes, there's momentary conflicts, but there's been more peace than violence. And by withdrawing culture and putting a ban on culture, we really affect and promote negative feelings at the mass level. I think that's really, really terrible. So while I do think that from an army perspective, from a military perspective, from sanction perspective, we can try to, you know, try to curtail Pakistan and their behavior. From an artistic perspective, we should really try to keep friendly relationships between the two countries, keeping in mind that harmony, peace, and friendship is what everyone wants in the long run at the end of the day.
Advaita Kala, do you agree with that perspective of Ira Trivedi? Because there are many who believe that perhaps it's time for India to adopt a slightly harder position vis-a-vis Pakistan.
Yes, I think so. I think because, you know, every response cannot be a military response. It cannot be a violent response. We have to look at other dimensions of engagement that can express displeasure and that can express how difficult it is for us to continue being on friendly terms if you're going to come in and burn 19 of our soldiers alive in tents. And really, I mean, it is a measure of, it is a non-violent measure, the way I look at it. When you withdraw this kind of cooperation, in the interim, it is withdrawing of a hand. It is not slapping you in the face with it. And I think there is a distinction there. And I think we have to pursue non-violent means apart from military options to make our point clear to Pakistan that this kind of relationship, this kind of duplicity, this kind of violence, cross-border terrorism is just not going to work anymore. Enough is enough.
Well, yes, Ira Trivedi, that's an important point that Advaita makes over there. Clearly, while military action is one aspect of it, but that apart, isn't there also a role that can be sent without any kind of violence? A message can be sent out if we adopt a harder stance vis-a-vis all that we see in terms of Pakistani entertainment or Pakistani actors and artists participating or performing in India. Isn't it time for a peaceful method of protest such as this to be adopted?
I don't think that it will work. You know, I don't think by banning a few individuals and by banning a few films, that's not going to work, because, to be honest, the Pakistani government just doesn't care. You know, it's the people who get affected. The
All right, let me just try and, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Ira. Let me just try and connect with Sultan Ali, our guest from Pakistan who's joining us, analyst who's with us at this point in time. Sultan Ali, let me just try and connect with Sultan Ali, our guest from Pakistan who's joining us, analyst who's with us at this point in time. Sultan Ali, clearly this is not a film that has anything to do with security or anything to do with those aspects. Clearly it's a film focused on entertainment, it's focused on sports. In fact, why would there be any issue with a film like Dangal being released in Pakistan?
Well, you see, I would like to point out that it is extremely important that the situation, the relations should be conducive to this kind of thing. I agree that we should not use art, we should not use sports, we should use cultural relations be hostage to politicking. But the fact is that it takes two to tango. What we are hearing is that it is the same situation in India. That Pakistani artists are not being able to perform over there. And not to talk about Pakistanis, some of your own media reports that in some cases, Muslim artists have not been permitted.
No, I don't think that's fair at all. I don't think that's a fair comparison at all. In an industry where the three top stars, of course, are representatives of, are in fact, follow a different religion, are Muslims. In fact, that's not a fair argument at all. Advaita Kala, would you like to counter what Sultan Ali is saying?
Yeah. Not at all.
No, you see, I fully agree with you.
I have a personal example of my own. You know, last year in 2015, I was personally involved in hosting an event wherein there was a Pakistani singer who came called Javed Ali, and it was an open-air concert. And I stood by that invitation. We got security. If you remember, times were tense even in October 2015. We'd had some incidents. And I stood by that and really put myself on the line to make sure that Javed Ali performed, that these kind of relationships were maintained. But there is a threshold. And now when you have things like the Uri incident happen, at some point that threshold is crossed. And it's just not acceptable anymore. So even someone like me, who puts myself personally on the line, is stepping back from this kind of engagement, because really, I mean, I said this a couple of times on the show today, enough is enough. We want peace.
Sultan Ali, you have a clear example over there of, people going, one of our panelists, in fact, saying that she herself has ensured that performance of artists happens in a peaceful environment, but that doesn't seem to be reciprocated by Pakistan clearly in the form of the way Dangal is being treated.
No, you're talking about, you see, something which happened a year back, but in the near past, yes, the participant, I'm sorry, I didn't get the name, just talked about the Uri incident, and after the Pathankot incident, the temperatures have been extremely high on both sides. So we need to cool these down.
So how will it cool down if you ban the film? What is the logic in that, Mr. Ali? How will it be cooled down if you ban the film? Clearly, of course, the way to cool it down would have been to allow the film if you wanted to return things back to normalcy.
Are you allowing Pakistani to be screened in India? Please answer me this question. Are you allowing any Pakistani films to be screened in India?
So you've decided that as far as this, the entire decision that, that Indian films will not be screened in Pakistan, that was just a cosmetic announcement. You agree to the fact that announcement was just cosmetic, that you did not mean it. And that clearly means that, that your argument there, your argument there does not work, Mr. Ali.
I'm trying to say is that both sides need to look inwards, and we need to let the soft instances forward, and the soft instances can move only forward with the help of these cultural exchanges, with the help of, you see,
so how will there be cultural exchanges if you ban films, which are not even secure, which are not even controversial in that sense? How will that exchange happen, Mr. Ali? You are saying that both sides, but it takes two hands to clap. Why does Pakistan not take the initiative?
Pakistan can take the initiative, but India, you see, you insist upon calling yourselves the bigger country, the bigger brother. Why can't this initiative come from India?
Ira Trivedi, would you like to counter that statement of Sultan Ali?
I beg your pardon, please say this again.
Ira Trivedi.
I actually got cut off, so if we could just repeat his point.
Well, it's time now for a very short break. In fact, we will come back to the discussion. Request all my guests to stay on with us. It's time now for a very short break, but we will continue this discussion right after this. Welcome back to Insight. I'd like to thank all our guests for waiting patiently. But very quickly, before we wrap up this debate, I'd like to get quick closing comments. The comment that was being made at Advaita Kala a short while ago by Mr. Sultan Ali was that it takes both sides to really ensure that there is increased cooperation and cultural exchange. Don't you think that Pakistan should also be setting its own record straight by, in fact, first promising that films would be released and then later a film like Dangal, which is so non-controversial, being banned?
Well, really, I'm really waiting for some resolution to come out of 2611 and what they're doing about. Well, really, I'm really waiting for some resolution to come out of 2611 and what they're doing about all the proof that we've given to them. You know, it's been many years now. So, you know, we have been on this sort of cycle of really this, on the receiving end of this kind of violence for so long now, that at some point, you know, whether a film releases or doesn't release, it's quite clear that it is the Pakistani side that really suffers when Indian films don't release there, monetarily speaking. So for me, really, it's about Pakistan really coming to the table and saying that they are committed to fighting this cross-border terrorism before we can really look at normalizing things across the board.
Well, absolutely. Things for Pakistan to really normalize, first and foremost, Mr. Sultan Ali, a lot that Pakistan itself needs to do to normalize the situation. It's really not going to work if you only blame India.
You see, we have to stop the blame game, actually. The problem is that this is I mean, terrorism is a problem which is plaguing both sides, and we can probably unite in that to fight the common enemy.
Well, very difficult when you don't take action on 2611 or Pathankot, Mr. Ali. Very difficult when you don't take any action post 2611 and Pathankot, despite so much of official inquiries and commissions being set up. Nothing that has come to light, no convictions taking place, and in fact terrorists like Hafiz Saeed roaming the streets freely. How do you say that both sides would have to cooperate? Pakistan has to obviously take action first and foremost.
No.
Well, if you're asking me, let me tell you that as far as Pathankot is concerned, the recent charge sheet that has been submitted by India, we have only heard about it on the media. This needs to be submitted through the proper channel and let it be examined. I'm certain that it will not fall on deaf ears, and if it carries weight, action will be taken.
Well, I'll have to ultimately only say, Sultan Ali, we all know what came out of the Pathankot Commission, where in fact several of your officials visited the spot even, despite that no action being taken by the Pakistan government. In fact, it's just about time to end this debate. Quick closing comments from Ira Trivedi, and then we'll have to wrap up this debate. Ira Trivedi.